Hi there, it's me, Jordan Van Haslo. Welcome to Jordan Van Haslo and Friends live on Hot 702.5 FM Las Vegas. Let's get on with the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Showtime with Jordan Van Haslo and Friends, right here on Hot 702.5 FM. I am so excited to chat with today's friend. He's a new friend. His name is Jim Hardy. And well, we won't even go into years, but many, many years ago, he began working licensing and archiving legendary Bob Hope's collection of films, movies, video clips, audio clips, etc. And only just now they're announcing a Bob Hope YouTube channel. And I think that this is so wonderful. I have so many wonderful memories being a little child and watching Bob Hope on NBC and making all of his appearances everywhere. And I just want to get right into it and really learn about what they're rolling out on this YouTube channel, and also talk about the legacy of this very, very legendary entertainer. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome you to my new friend, Jim Hardy. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Jordan. Super happy to be here today.
So glad you can join us. So let's just get right into it. So how did this come about? Because now Bob Hope hasn't been with us for a while, but he had a really long run. Wasn't he like 101 when he passed? Or like 100?
He was 100.
100, yeah.
Yeah, he made 100. And that was 21 years ago.
I can't believe it's been that long, because I remember when it was becoming his 100th birthday, and I think like NBC did like a whole thing, and they had specials and all of that jazz. So where did the YouTube, so 21 years ago, first of all, what took so long for there to be a YouTube page dedicated to this guy? And what was the impetus to start it now?
We are not as hip as you all. So this new technology new to us, Instagram, YouTube, all of these things, generations no ins. We don't really understand. We don't know how to do it on our own, and we probably could have and should have done this a long time ago, but there's an outfit called Spotted Dog, and this is what they do. They do YouTube channels. They have Smothers Brothers and different things, and they came to us with the idea because Mitch, who we've known for many years, was at Time Life and did a great job with our material over there. So he knew we had a lot of gold to mine, and they came to us with the idea, and we thought, well, that makes a lot of sense because we have the material and don't know what to do with it. You know what to do with it and don't have the material. So, we partnered up, and here we go.
Yeah. So when does it launch officially?
It has launched. It's been up for, I want to say 4 or 5 months at this point. And, we're getting our legs under us, and, we just got to get the word out,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. How has the response been thus far?
The response has been, in some cases, overwhelming. I'm blown away. As a point of example, we put up, May the 4th is kind of a big day in the Star Wars community. May the 4th be with you. So we had a Star Wars spoof with Mark Hamill and Olivia Newton-John that was done back, when Star Wars was brand new. And we put that up, and, and it's only been up, what, a week and a half. It's got, like 115 or 120,000 views already. And I'm like, wow, this is just mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
So, there's an audience for this stuff, and, if they know it's there, they'll come, it's Field of Dreams, right? If you build it, they will come. So.
Absolutely. So let's go back, and we're going to come back to this, but let's go back to kind of just how you first became involved with Bob Hope and Bob Hope's organizations.
Yeah, that was 1986, Jordan. That was a long time ago. You probably weren't born yet.
I yes, we'll go with that.
Yeah, you'll read about it one day.
Exactly.
So the fellow that was the production assistant at Hope Enterprises either had to or wanted to take the summer off for some reason, to be a summer replacement. I had studied film and television at OU, so I wasn't coming in without any background. So it was kind of a plug and play for them. And
Mhm.
by the end of the summer, we did a show during that summer and a couple of personal appearances and things. So I had an opportunity, to do my work and so forth. And by the end of the summer, they came to me and said, "Look, you want to?" Been there ever since.
Wow. Wow. So in coming, because at this point Bob Hope was legendary by 1986. He was just one of those people, like when I think about like just being a kid, he was kind of just one of those show business figures um who always was and always kind of like it seemed like he just had always been around and like would always be around. What was it like in terms of coming into this kind of the orbit of like a real legendary entertainer who truly, I mean, you could really say had truly been around since the dawn of broadcasting?
He certainly had been around since the dawn of Jim Hardy because he was on in my household. My parents watched him, so I grew up with the Bob Hope show, in the house, all of the years that I had been alive up to that point. So, he was legendary, obviously, not only in the United States, but in my home. And to get an opportunity to have this sort of 3 month gig, I thought this is going to be incredible. I'm going to meet a lot of really important people. This is going to be a great opportunity for me. And you don't know what to expect from a person who is that big. You don't
Mm-hmm.
know what their personality is going to be like. Are they going to be difficult? Or are they going to give you a hard time? Are they going to have a short temper? You don't know what to expect. So, I mean, the first time that I got called over to go to his house and run tape for him, I'm a little nervous, what the reception's going to be. He couldn't have been nicer. He was so chummy, if that's still a word. I mean, he was just the most pleasant person and nice, and it put me right at ease. And boy, was I relieved, because you read stories about what certain entertainers can be like today, and he was the absolute opposite. He was so genuine and interesting and interested in everybody around him. And
Yeah.
I was, boy, it was a great relief for me. And I had a great relationship with him for the many years that I was there until he passed away.
Yeah. So what exactly was your role? Like what was your day-to-day during your time working for the organization?
As a production assistant, you're really, an assistant to both the producer and the associate producer. So on the one hand, it's you're assisting with the creative aspects of it, and working with the writers, a little bit, and being a liaison between, the cast, which has been booked for the show, and then also working with the associate producer, whose job is the below the line stuff. He's booking the facilities, he's getting the cameras, the cameramen all lined up, the sound people. So you got kind of a two-pronged attack in that position, and you're just doing whatever they ask you to do. And I'll tell you, there's no better way to learn how to put a show together in a short amount of time than to be around a couple of fellows like that, and Bob, who knew everything there was to know by that time. about putting a show together. He'd been doing it, I mean, he'd been doing it for 3.5 decades by the time I showed up. So uh, I didn't know anything that he didn't already know. But it was
Yeah.
a heck of a great experience. And I mean, he was 83 years old, Jordan, when I went to work for him. He went up the stairs two at a time. He was in better shape than I was. I was 25.
It's all about the stairs. I remember once watching an interview or reading an interview with Betty White, and this is as as she like this is when she was in her 90s, and someone asked her like, "Well, what do you're still out and you're still working and you're still doing this," and she attributed it to the fact that she lived in a house with stairs and that she was just always multiple times a day going up and down stairs, up and down stairs, up and down stairs. So I think that there may be something to that. The so talk to me kind of about just the content on the YouTube page. So now I know that Bob Hope, he worked for NBC for decades, right? Like that was like his primary employer, wasn't it? For like eons, eons, eons. 'Cause like again, I just remember even as a kid, like he would like pop up in like guest spots on like NBC shows.
Since 1938.
Yeah, that's like talk about job security, right?
Yeah.
so, so in terms of your archive, because I would imagine a lot of his what all does the Hope organization own? Because I would imagine a lot of that would be owned by NBC Universal. I don't know, like when he was doing like all those Road to films, was that Universal Pictures as well, or
Some of them were Paramount Pictures, and Universal owns the Paramount Library today, but not all of them. Bob owns, about a dozen of his pictures are amongst those.
Got it. So you own all these pictures, you own all of this television content, you own all of this. So has it just been kind of sitting in a vault? Like I'm picturing like Johnny Carson, hasn't everything like sitting in like a cave in like Nebraska or something along those lines? Like yes. So I'm envisioning like a big shed in Toluca Lake that just has like eons and eons of tapes. Like so have like up until now, like what's happened with them? Have they just literally just kind of just been sitting there collecting dust? Has there been a lot of, or has there been like a lot of, because I imagine there's, it's not just him. I imagine just different co-stars and such. I imagine there would be a big market to license a lot of it, even if, for things that didn't necessarily pertain to him. What's been the case with that over the last 21 years?
Well, they were well cared for the original material. In Hollywood, they were in storage, in media storage. So it's humidity controlled, it's temperature controlled. It was so much content, Jordan, that we had 23 storage units, 23 of these storage units to hold all of this material.
Wow.
Eventually, we digitized everything and then donated all of the original stuff to the Library of Congress. And they keep it in their state-of-the-art facility. But we have everything digitized, and that's what we draw from. And, you're right. I mean, the guest stars that he had on the show, he always had the best and the brightest at the time. Whoever the spotlight was on, he wanted them on the show. So we have, everybody from John Denver to Aretha Franklin to the Jackson Five to Barbra Streisand. Frank Sinatra's first television appearance was on a Bob Hope show. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And he wanted to have whoever was hot on the show. And,
Yeah.
and in those days, there were only 3 channels, Jordan, for most of that time. So a Bob Hope show would get a 45, 50, 55 share. Half of America was watching. So if Bob Hope wanted you on his show, well, you'd be crazy to say no. You can't get publicity like that. I don't know where you would get an audience like that today.
YouTube.
I hope so. I hope half of America is watching. But there's so much that there's so many opportunities now for people vying for your attention, and that
Yeah.
just wasn't always the case. You had a captive audience back in the day when there was ABC, NBC, and CBS. That was it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Have you guys ever explored bringing the program back to television? Like I think about, like television, like Get TV, for example, which that's Sony's station that airs like all of the things, like the older shows that are in Sony's catalog, like the
Yeah,
Sam Sons and all those old Norman Lear shows. Have you
yeah,
explored like because what I find so interesting, particularly because he was so old when he passed, and also it's been 21 years. There's a generation like my parents, right? Well, my grandparents are gone, right? But there's a generation of my parents who like really grew up with him, right? Then there's
yeah,
my generation where he was still very much around. Like I said, he was just kind of like, he was old by the time I came around, but he was very much just that like Hollywood person who just seemed like he just had always been there and always would be. And so he was just this legend, but I didn't necessarily grow up watching his road to films until I, got older and got interested in like cinema.
yeah,
And you have this whole new generation who, like in many aspects, many of them probably have never even heard of him. And like it's like this opportunity to kind of introduce this man, introduce that genre, the variety show, introduce all of this to a whole new um, generation of people. Like what's was there has there been any kind of like strategy or thought in terms of like marketing, like in terms of doing that, and with regards to the launch of the YouTube channel? So I guess I just asked you like two questions. I asked if you tried to get it back on TV, and then I asked you a marketing question. I apologize. I'm like,
I'll give you two answers.
okay.
We really never did think about putting it back on television, and part of the problem, Jordan, is that they're variety shows, and it's the music that
Oh,
becomes.
you've got to license all the music. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
That's the hard part. Sitcoms don't have to worry about that. Variety shows do, and the music, to reuse the music can be extremely expensive. That's just the way the contracts were written and the union residuals and so forth, which is why you didn't see a lot of variety shows being rerun late, in later years. But we did have really good success with the timeline. They put out, got sold a bunch of them. I had no idea that there was still that much of an audience for the content, because I know there's not that many original Bob Hope fans still alive. So
Right.
it
Right.
was just I mean, so there was a demand for this material, um, and hopefully, some of those people, will want to revisit this, and hopefully we can introduce, like you say, new generations to it.
Yeah. Yeah. When did the Time Life collection come out?
Probably, uh, you know, 05, 06, you
Yeah.
know, a lot of that stuff was pretty old. There was definitely that content,
Yeah.
but I think
Yeah.
like you say, when you got older and had an had an interest to in cinema and to see some of the older stuff, um, it catches your interest, you know.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So talk to me about the YouTube channel and just kind of the strategy. How often do you post? What can we expect in terms of like, because this is now all curated content and it's coming to us in a specific way. How often do you post? What can we see when we visit the site?
We're posting at least twice a week, new material.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there's always something new to see. What we put up yesterday, last week, or last month will always be there. So things don't rotate out. So the library just grows larger and larger and larger. So anytime a person goes to visit the site, they're going to see new stuff, but they can catch up with the stuff that they missed, before. So, we have, for instance, that like that Star Wars spoof is up there and doing gangbusters, and we put up, you can go up now and you can see the Jackson Five from, when Michael was 15 years old. It's very, I mean, it's so nostalgic, and he was doing such great tunes. That's up there. We've got a lot of stuff here, some Frank Sinatra stuff. There's a reel of insults that's up there, where there's a collection of clips of the various stars that he would have on the show. And he was a very generous comic, and he would give the best lines to his guest stars, usually at his own expense. And that stuff is very, very funny. And we're just, yeah, I mean, we have 1,000 hours of content here, Jordan. I mean, you know I won't live long enough to put it all up there.
Yeah. Are you how involved are you in the curation of the YouTube page? Or is the what are they called? Spotted? What's the name of the organization?
Spotted dogs, spotted
Spotted,
dog.
or are they or are they tasked with kind of going through the library and choosing, okay, we want to release this, we want to release this.
They don't have the whole. They're familiar with what they put out for Time Life, because Mitch, who put the stuff out for Time Life, he's at Spotted Dog now, so he's familiar with the material that he had and put out for Time Life. But the rest of it, they don't know, and so it's a constantly sending stuff over to them that I think will be fun to put up. And they kind of choose the timing on it because they understand more about the mechanics of running a YouTube channel, and algorithms, and those type of things that we don't know anything about. I know what's fun for people to see it.
Yeah. So are you still officially employed by the Hope organization, or are
Yeah,
you just
yeah, I'm
so
still with it's the Bob and Dolores Hope Charitable Foundation now that owns everything's been folded into that. So
got it.
anytime we make a dollar on anything, be it licensing or anything else, it goes into the foundation. And and they do great things with it for people that are veterans. We do a lot for veterans who have fallen through the cracks. An awful lot of them are really struggling and having a hard time. And also just the general population that's struggling to keep a roof over their head and meals on the table. So the foundation does really great work with every dollar that we get from licensing or anything else.
It reminds me of a bit like what they work on. It reminds me of, what are they called, Jose? Is it the Thetans? The Thetans? Is it the Thetans working? I had a wonderful conversation on the show with Ruta Lee. I don't know if you know Ruta Lee, the
Oh
actress.
yeah, sure.
And she was telling me all about the Thetans, because she was one of the founders of the Thetans, and they do a lot of similar work in terms of with veterans and it sounds very similar in terms of like the mission and where they're aligned to. So that's also the other thing. So all of the profits, anything that's made goes directly into the organization.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Bob is famously quoted for having said once that if you don't have charity in your heart, you have the worst kind of heart trouble.
Ha, I like that.
Yeah. He
And it's
was very
the,
philanthropic his entire life.
yeah. And Jose just texted me. It's the Thalians is the name of the organization. I think the Thetans, that's like Scientology, isn't it? Oops. So
I'll leave that one alone.
right, exactly. Because we won't touch it. so so we have this new YouTube page. We're introducing Bob Hope to a new generation of people. We're reintroducing him to people who are my age, who are now like have the spending power, who remember him but don't necessarily have the same relationship with him as say someone who like grew up in the heart of his era. What can we expect? Is there like a goal? Like now that we're in AI times, are we going to see like Bob Hope starring in a movie with Marilyn Monroe and James Dean?
Well, that's an interesting question because I mean, they're getting so good at it now that they can certainly recreate any past celebrity. I think in a way that would fool an awful lot of people. The problem is who decides what that celebrity is going to do? Who gets to choose? And are they going to do something? Is AI or producers that have AI on their team, are they going to have Bob Hope or Marilyn Monroe do something that they wouldn't have done themselves?
Yeah.
Who's the
Well, I
who's the
guess.
moral, who's the moral compass there?
Well, I think the compass would be the estate, right? Because they say yes or no, and they're just like if he was alive. It's like, no, I'm not
Yeah.
going to like cuss and get naked. You know what I mean? Like, I would imagine it would be negotiated very, very similarly to just like your
Yeah.
standard contract that an actor
Yeah.
would be. Is that something that you think that type of thing? Is that something that you think that the foundation or whoever owns the estate would be open to even exploring?
I don't see why not. I don't see why not. I mean, I think if Bob were here, he would be. He was always the quickest to embrace any new technology. I mean, TV was a new technology once, and he was all over it, even though he didn't really think it was going to last. You know? But he was, I mean, he was in there. He wanted to try it out and see what it was. He'd be all over this. YouTube and Instagram and all these things, he'd be all over it. So I don't see why not, at least explore. How fun would it be if out the writing, really, at that
Wait, say
point?
that one more time. We lost you for a second. You said, how fun would it be?
Oh, I was saying, how fun would it be if they could, recreate the road pictures and do a new road picture. If you can, get AI to recreate Bob and Bing, and you can get somebody who can write those pictures.
Totally. I'm
I mean,
actually shocked. Do those road pictures, does he own the copyright to those? Because I quite honestly, I'm actually shocked that there hasn't been like a reboot of those, like with current comedians. Like, oh, Kevin Hart and you know, whoever, Dave Chappelle or you know what I mean? Like I'm actually
yeah.
shocked that Seth Rogen and Jonah Hill. Like I'm actually shocked that no one's attempted to reboot those films.
The one that comes to mind is Spies Like Us. Kind of tried to recreate that. Ishtar was sort of an attempt to recreate that. The problem is that the chemistry that existed between Bob and Bing was not something that anybody else could mimic. It was
Yeah.
just there was something there between the two of them that you couldn't recreate. And I don't even know if AI can recreate it. That becomes the problem. You can recreate the look and the sound of people, but can you recreate the personality?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Because there is just that spirit of the individual. And like, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. What's it like having spent your career working for a single individual, like, a star? What's that like? Because like say versus say if you had worked for Universal, or if you worked for William Morris Endeavor, where you're kind of jumping back and forth between different talent, different actors, different actresses, different musicians, whatever, but
Yeah.
so singularly working for one person where you're kind of like evangelizing this individual person. What is that like do you like did you find you would like dream about Bob Hope? Like because like I imagine you're always like eating, drinking, sleeping Bob
Yeah.
Hope.
Well, I may not have dreamed of. I dreamt about some of the co-stars. I dreamt about Barbara Eden and Donna Mills, maybe. It's it's remarkably lucky because I mean I thought about it. So somebody was talking about they had that if I had an up to date who who am I going to give it to? It would be the shortest resume ever written. I've had one job. But it's a family business, Jordan, and it always has been. So the interesting thing is that while Bob is gone a long time now, Dolores, the widow, was running things, after that. And I knew her almost as well as I knew him. And she was almost the same as he was. I mean, she had a sharp wit. She was funny. And then, now it's Linda, the daughter. And, I mean, I've known her, since, I started to work for her dad. So, there's a continuity that exists that, there's a comfort level. I don't have to be thinking about how to behave. We have a new CEO or the new CFO's coming in or whatever. It's the same cast of characters since 1986. So, I just show up and be myself. I haven't changed the locks even.
Is there any thought as to like like, ooh, how do we monetize all of this, and and before every, like, I think about the Gershwin family, right? And like one by one, like little by little, each year more and more of the Gershwin's music has gone into public domain. And you can see like the Gershwin family, they're like, okay, and you'll hear like they really, really actively license music to like commercials, etc. And they'll like create the brand new Gershwin show where they'll reuse songs and create a new story and bring it to Broadway. Like it's like really clear, with it, at the risk of sounding crude, but that they're like trying to wring out as much as they can from their catalog before they no longer have the right to, right? Because everything will eventually be in the public domain. Has there been any like active thought? Like I know you said like the organization came to you about YouTube, but has there been like active thought about like, oh, okay, we have all of this really interesting content that really is like almost like it's a time capsule, right? It's an historical time capsule. How can we, really, really get this out there? How can we monetize it? How can we, like while we have it and it's ours and it's not like, it's not public domain and anybody can just, post things about it or, post clips of it or broadcast clips of it.
Right, right. Let us get up in the morning and think, how can we make more money today? Because the foundation.
Yeah. I know it sounds a little crude or rude to say, but I mean, like, I mean, if I were like, like if my father or my grandfather was like, a legendary entertainer and I had like this huge catalog, I would totally, you best believe, I would totally be like, okay, so how can we have the Bob Hope Network? And then how can we have
It's I mean, we're mostly interested in keeping his legacy alive and introducing him to new generations because I mean, people today have a very short attention span, and the reality is that younger people have no idea who he is. We have a Bob Hope Airport out here in LA. And other than
Wanted to
that,
ask you about that as well.
yeah,
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
yeah.
I want to talk about the renaming of the network, of the airport as well, and your thoughts on that. But continue.
Yeah, well, so if I was meeting somebody new and the conversation would turn, well, what do you do? Well, I'd say, well, I work for the Bob Hope organization. Oh, yeah, the airport guy. Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
they don't know him any more than they know, who O'Hare is or LaGuardia. I mean, it's an
No,
airport guy.
totally.
So we'd like to change that if we can, because there is value to what he accomplished and what he did, and the hard part is getting people to look at it. Older folks, they know about him, and so once they know that there's a YouTube channel, they'll look for it because they want to see this stuff again, and they want to see the stuff they missed the first time around. But we'd
Mhm.
like to get some new eyeballs on him as well. So, you know, we're not really looking, to make a buck. Licensing, we will, because somebody comes to us and they want to license something that we own. Well, they're monetizing it. They're licensing it for a program that they're going to sell. So if they're going to monetize it, then we're going to monetize it. That's found money for the foundation. If somebody's doing a documentary and their budget's really low, well, then, we're not going to charge because, they're not really out making this film to make money. So, it kind of depends on what the end use of it is. But if other people are going to monetize uh, our material for their own benefit, then we're gonna get our share, and the
Right.
foundation benefits from it. But the YouTube channel, I don't know if it'll make money or it won't. I suppose that at some point it might, if it gets enough people interested in it. And then the foundation will be the beneficiary of it. But that wasn't the end goal or the reason for doing it. We just don't want him to get lost. Who remembers Milton Berle anymore?
Right. No, totally.
Who remembers Danny Thomas anymore? The problem is out of sight, out of mind, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It makes me think because I like maybe a couple of years ago, um, they started a Humphrey Bogart Instagram page. And if it like it's an official page run by his estate. And I remember when it first popped up into my feed, and I was like, oh, this is like a really cool way to keep this person's legacy alive. And like they're really clever with their captions, and they're really just that kind of and like the stills that they use, like really kind of like um burnishing his image as this kind of like suave, cool old Hollywood actor. So I do think that that's very important. If I were to talk, so if in that vein, if I were to tell, say, someone who's 20 years old, 22 years old, who has no clue who Bob Hope is because Bob Hope was gone before they were, born. How would you describe, or how would I describe Bob Hope and what Bob Hope means to media and culture?
I think what Bob Hope means to media and culture is that he's the comedian that had the single best timing that ever lived. His timing is legendary, and it was natural for him. And comics today still study his timing. And, I mean, stand-up comedy is such a big part of our lives now. But
Yeah.
that stand-up comedy was not always a thing. You know, Bob made it a thing. To stand on stage and just tell joke after joke after joke to an audience was something new. I mean, there would be people like Will Rogers that they would tell humorous tales and stories, and there were jokes, intertwined with it, but it was part of a larger tapestry. But Bob would just stand up there by himself and just tell a joke after a joke after a joke, and that was new. And that was in the 20s. That was 100 years ago, and you can see that. Watch him on television, and I know
We
that
lost you for a
Chris,
second. You said that that was in the 1920s, and we can see.
yeah, you could. Apparently the internet here is not working very good today. I apologize.
No worries.
You can see the successful doing that when you watch the television shows and you watch the monologues and you watch sketches that he does with people, and you can see, how he's waiting for somebody to say something and then he delivers his line right ahead of him. The timing, the comedic timing, it's not something that you can teach, really, I don't think. He just had it naturally, and comedians study it because they want, that rhythm. Um, if there was only one reason uh, to look at Bob, that would be the reason to look. I mean, nobody had better time than he did, before or since. I mean, he's it's legendary, his timing, and I think most comics will tell you that.
Yeah. Have you, like the foundation, have you guys partnered with any like current comics who've cited him as an influence, or and looked at ways to partner with them in terms of extending, the Bob Hope legacy and brand. I hate the word brand, but extending, that to like a newer generation.
Well, we haven't, and I'll tell you what, Jordan, that's a really good idea, because that's what Jerry Seinfeld did with Abbott and Costello, I believe, and I think Kelsey Grammer did the same thing with Jack Benny. So you get a person that everybody knows who's hot, and they say, well, this is who I liked and why. This is who I watched. This is who I patterned myself after. And, so you at least get, your fan base being a younger entertainer, and, they were younger entertainers when these things happen. And you at least introduce these older people, these entertainers from the past, to a new generation, and hopefully, they click. So it's not a bad idea. I mean, I think Chris Rock is well documented as being a guy that would go and look at the old Hope shows to try and just to see that timing. Whether anybody wants to do that or not, I don't know, but it's a great idea, because otherwise it's so hard to get the attention of younger generations for something that they consider nostalgia.
Yeah, that's
Nostalgia is.
totally. Well, because it's hard, right? Because just in terms of, like, if you're someone who's 22, just the way television looks versus say the way television looked in 1980, it's different. It's just like, okay, this looks old. And even just the style, right? How, like, if you think about stand-up comedy, just how jokes are told now versus how they were once upon a time, it's old. So I think it's really, young people. I think young people can be a difficult nut to crack. And I don't think it's, like, oh, young people are stupid or kids today. I think I think when I was in my 20s, I imagine when you were in your 20s, we all are the same way, right? We think that that what's
Yeah.
current is like is the only thing that's ever happened in the world. And anything that's old must be stupid, until we get older and realize, oh, wait, there's like a through line here, right? Like, what I think is funny, well, that came out of this 20 years ago, and that was influenced by this 30 years before that, and that was influenced by, you know, whoever came on the Mayflower, like what?
Yeah. You're right, though. You're right. You want to trace it back far enough,
Yeah, and I think it's, I don't know, I think it's so fascinating. So I think it's really, really awesome, what you guys are doing with the YouTube channel, and I really wish you guys a lot of success with it. And I'll think about it, because I think that there is opportunity there for you guys to maybe partner with some younger entertainers. And I'll the little hamster wheel in my head is kind of spinning. So I'll send you some ideas.
Okay, yeah. All right, the ball's in your court on that one.
There
You
you go.
you started it, Jordan.
I did. So, so, so we have the YouTube page going on. Are there any other ideas at the moment, aside from my brilliant idea of getting you some kind of a young comic partnership? Are there any other ideas in which to share this material, whether it's through other forms of social media, like an Instagram page or a Twitter or X page? Are there any other kind of like ideas in the works to kind of keep the momentum going?
There aren't because I don't know how to do it, Jordan. But I'm sure there are people out there that do. But so far, we're just doing the YouTube page. But I think some cross pollination wouldn't be a bad idea with Facebook and Instagram and so forth, because all roads then can point. You can get people to look at something else and introduce them, through a link or whatever to the YouTube page. But
Yeah, you say all roads, the road to
just,
Bob Hope.
yeah, I just technologically, we're a little behind the curve over here.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, you're on YouTube. You're here now.
We're here, better late than never, right?
Exactly. Do you have a, so do you have, having grown up on Bob Hope, having uh worked, for Bob Hope for so long, do you have a favorite Bob Hope memory? Either personal memory directly with him or like a memory of one of his performances that has always stuck with you?
A couple of the performances that I enjoy the most, he did a monologue when Elvis got drafted into the Army. And he did a monologue. Part of the monologue was on this subject, and I thought it was a collection of some of the funniest jokes told with perfect timing. And I'm definitely going to put that up on the YouTube channel. That's one of my favorite monologues ever. And there's the 54 with Jack Benny and Rosemary Clooney. And he plays a New Orleans jazz pianist. He's got a jazz band, and Rosie's the band singer. And they're going to interview a new fiddle player, Jack Benny, who brings his violin. And the two of them go off script, and they start ad-libbing. And it gets funnier and funnier. And poor Rosie doesn't know when she's supposed to give her next line. What she says, she's trying to get the boys back on the rails, and they're having no part of it. And you can see it's a great study in comedic timing, because the both of them know the next thing they're going to say, but it's too early to say it. It's not going to be as funny. So they're holding it, they're waiting. And you can see them looking at each other, waiting for the other person to open his mouth, and then he's going to say it. And it's a perfect study. And anybody who's interested in comedic timing, not only is it just funny to watch, but it's very educational. As a student, a comedic student, it's very educational. So those are two of my favorites.
Yeah, I love that. Does aside from YouTube, is there like a does Bob Hope have an online home? Like, or is there like an official bobhope.com or someplace that kind of like where folks can learn about him?
The foundation has a page, but I read about Bob. There's bio on there, but the page exists, just so that people know about the foundation and what it does.
Got it. Yeah, wonderful. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you. I'm sorry. Say that again.
No. I'm always wondering if the internet is working.
Yeah, no, I can hear you now. I can hear you now. Well, I think that this is really, really, really exciting. The official Bob Hope YouTube page. So what's the URL of the page? Where can our audience find it?
Well, I'll tell you, the easiest way to find it, Jordan, is to just jump on Google and just search YouTube Bob Hope channel, and we'll pop right up. Bob Hope YouTube channel. Google knows where we are, and it takes you right to us, and you're going to find all the material there. And you know, if they subscribe, and you know, it's my understanding, you subscribe and then you click the little notification bell every time something new goes up, you know about it. But
Absolutely.
even if you don't, you know, and there's new stuff 2 or 3 times every week, so it's always fresh.
That's exciting. That's absolutely exciting. Do you tell me your two favorite clips? Is there any other clip that you're really excited to share with the public that's in the vault?
Oh boy, I'm a big Aretha Franklin fan myself. So I can't wait to get the clip up of when she was on the show, and she does "Thanks for the Memory" with Bob, and she does
Oh,
it in her own way, her own unique style, and it's one of my favorites. So it's hard to just pick a few things, but I would definitely single that one out. I can't wait to get that up there too.
yeah. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask. What I meant to ask you, because you mentioned it briefly, and I'm so curious. So what is like how did everyone feel about them renaming the North Hollywood airport?
Well, it wasn't a surprise. You know, I mean, the the naming when they decided to name it the Bob Hope Airport, it was not indefinite. You know, it was for a limited time, and they've always wanted to have the word Hollywood in it because
Hmm.
you know, so many people, you know, who come to visit Los Angeles, they come, you know, to go to Hollywood, and
Totally.
so now people, you know, I mean, air travelers know that the closer airport to Hollywood is Burbank, not LAX, and I think that was kind of the idea behind it. So it wasn't a big surprise. You know, it you know, they're a business. You know, they're in business to increase air traffic and make money, and this is the best way for them to do that. So.
Yeah, this is true.
We still have Bob Hope. We still have Bob Hope Drive here in Burbank, and there's Bob Hope Streets in Palm Springs, and there's Bob Hope U.S. He's still around.
Well, I love it. Well, I can't wait. I'm gonna subscribe and get my notifications, and see what you guys have going over at the Bob Hope official YouTube page. It's been an absolute pleasure getting acquainted with you today. Thank you so much for joining me.
It's 50 minutes already.
And time has passed quick, right?
Oh,
Time passes when you're having fun.
I had a blast. I had a blast, Jordan. I really appreciate you letting me come on and pitch the channel a little bit, and I just had a blast chatting with you.
Me too. I hope to speak with you again very, very soon.
You know where to
And
find me.
indeed, at the Bob Hope official YouTube channel. And that's where you all out there in Radio Land can find him and Bob Hope and wonderful, 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 entertaining clips from Bob Hope's wonderful, 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 entertaining show. Look, thank you so much for joining in. And we'll chat with you next week on another episode of Showtime with Jordan Van Hassel and Friends, right here on Hot 702.5 FM, Las Vegas. Everyone's favorite radio show and podcast is now available on Spotify. That's right. Showtime with Jordan Van Haslo and Friends, my weekly one-on-one chat with some of the most interesting people I know from the entertainment and the arts communities, can now be streamed on Spotify. That's right. I share real estate with Michelle Obama.